The battlefield of Draxion was burning. Ash rained from the sky like black snow, carried by the heavy winds that never rested on this cursed world. Craters scarred the surface, each one glowing faintly from the recent strikes of plasma and artillery. Smoke curled upward, hiding the stars that had once looked down on countless wars. Elias Varen crouched behind the wreck of a shattered tank, his breathing heavy beneath his helmet. His visor was cracked, a fine line spreading across it like a spider's web. He pressed his rifle close to his chest, waiting for the next wave of Valari soldiers to break through the haze. But none came. For the first time in hours, silence settled over the battlefield. Only the sound of burning metal and the distant rumble of thunder remained. Elias had fought for 2 years on the front lines of the human-Valari war. He had seen cities reduced to rubble, fleets torn apart in orbit, and comrades vanish in a flash of alien fire. Yet even with all those memories etched into his mind, nothing compared to what had just happened. The Queen had fallen. It wasn't supposed to be possible. The Valari Queen was more than a ruler. She was the living symbol of their empire, a towering figure with eyes like molten gold, armored in living metal that shimmered as if it breathed. She had led her people across half the galaxy, breaking civilizations with the sweep of her hand. Entire planets surrendered at the whisper of her name. Humanity had believed she was untouchable, a force no weapon could reach. And yet on this battlefield she had collapsed. Elias had seen it with his own eyes. The Queen had appeared on the front lines when her army began to falter. The Valari soldiers had rallied around her, their battle cries shaking the sky itself. She moved like a storm, scattering human forces with a single gesture. Elias had fired shot after shot, though he knew none would pierce her armor. Then, without warning, her body convulsed. A ripple of light spread across her form. Her steps faltered and she fell. Not from a human weapon, not from an explosion. She simply collapsed as if struck by something unseen. And now orders crackled in Elias's ear. Guard Varen, secure the body. High Command wants confirmation. His mouth went dry. Him alone? Hundreds of soldiers on both sides had witnessed her fall, and yet the command had landed on him. Maybe it was fate. Maybe it was punishment. Or maybe it was because no one else had survived near enough to reach her. Elias rose slowly from behind the ruined tank. His legs ached. His shoulders felt heavy from the weight of his armor. But he moved forward, step by cautious step. The battlefield was strangely still. Valari soldiers had pulled back after their queen's fall, and human forces were too stunned to press forward. Both sides seemed to wait, breathless to see what came next. At the center of the battlefield lay the Queen. Her massive form was crumpled against the dirt, her living armor dim and cracked, leaking faint streams of pale light. For the first time, Elias saw her not as a godlike conqueror, but as something fragile. Her chest rose and fell faintly, proof she was alive. Her golden eyes were half closed, her breaths shallow as if every inhalation was a battle. Elias's rifle trembled in his hands. The thought crossed his mind, he could end the war right here. One pull of the trigger and the Valari Empire would be headless. Humanity would cheer his name. Statues would rise in his honor. But as he stared down at her, his finger froze. This was no ordinary moment. Something was wrong. He lowered his weapon. Slowly, cautiously, he approached. The Queen stirred, a weak sound escaping her lips, more like a whisper than a voice. Elias froze again. The language was strange, the syllables alien, yet he could feel the meaning in his bones. Not now. Her head turned slightly, and Elias saw something on her skin where the armor had cracked. Strange markings glowed faintly along her neck and shoulder, symbols twisting lines that pulsed with a rhythm like a heartbeat. They weren't scars and they weren't wounds. They looked alive. He knelt beside her, his shadow falling over her body. Queen or not, Elias muttered under his breath. You're still breathing, which means you're still hiding something. The comm unit in his helmet crackled again. Guard Varen, report. Is she dead? Repeat. Confirm target's death. He glanced down at the Queen. If he told the truth, command would order him to finish her. If he lied, he could be branded a traitor. But looking at those glowing markings, at the strange collapse that no human weapon had caused, Elias felt a pull in his gut. This wasn't just about victory or survival. Something deeper was at play. She's down, Elias said carefully into the comm. Not moving. It wasn't a lie, not entirely. She wasn't moving much. but he gave no confirmation of death. Before Command could question him further, he cut the channel. The Queen shifted again, her hand twitching toward him. Her armor split slightly at her side, revealing more of the strange markings. For a moment, Elias thought he saw shapes within the glow. Circles, lines, something like a map or a code. He didn't understand it, but he felt the weight of it. The Queen's lips moved once more. Beneath. Stars. Hidden. Then her strength failed and she sank back into silence. Elias sat back on his heels, his heart pounding. The war, the battlefield, the orders from Command, all of it faded into the background. His mind clung to her words and the glowing symbols etched into her flesh. She hadn't fallen because of humanity. She hadn't been defeated by soldiers or weapons. Something inside her, something hidden, had brought her low. He looked around the battlefield. Both armies were holding their ground, waiting, watching. No one dared to move until the fate of the Queen was clear. Elias took a deep breath. If the Valari found her alive, they would guard her secret fiercely. If humans found out, they would exploit it without hesitation. Either way, the galaxy would burn brighter and bloodier than ever before. But if he kept this secret, if he uncovered it himself, then maybe, just maybe, humanity could hold something no empire could take away. Elias Varen, a simple guard on a ruined battlefield, had stumbled into the heart of a mystery greater than war, and he had just decided to keep it for himself. The battlefield of Draxion had fallen silent after the Queen's mysterious collapse. But silence did not mean safety. Ash swirled in the wind like smoke from a funeral pyre, and the ground trembled beneath Elias Varen's boots as he carried the weight of a secret that could shake the galaxy. The Queen's body, massive and armored, was heavier than any human should have been able to lift. Yet Elias managed it with careful effort. Each step was measured, precise. One misstep could mean death. Not just his, but the secret of the Valari Empire itself. He moved toward the ruins of an ancient Valari outpost. The place had been abandoned long before the war, a hollow shell of stone and metal that seemed to stretch endlessly into the jagged hills. Crumbling stairways and broken towers cast long shadows in the dim light of the dying sun. Elias had chosen this place because no one else would think to look here. Even the Queen's soldiers would avoid these ruins. They were considered cursed. As he approached the entrance, Elias felt a tension he could not shake. Every sound, his own breathing, the crunch of debris under his boots, the faint hiss of wind, was magnified. He crouched at the threshold, scanning the ruined corridors. The Queen lay against the wall, inert, yet her chest rose and fell in shallow, uneven breaths. The strange glowing symbols that had appeared when she fell pulsed softly under her cracked armor, almost like a heartbeat. "Queen," Elias whispered. "Can you hear me?" Her eyes flickered open, molten gold dimmed by exhaustion. She looked at him with a mixture of confusion, anger, and vulnerability. For the first time in human history, Elias saw the mighty Valari Queen not as an untouchable ruler, but as a creature burdened by something far greater than herself. You carried me," she said, voice hoarse, almost breaking. "I didn't have much choice," Elias replied. "If someone finds you like this, it won't end well for either of us." The Queen's eyes narrowed, though not with anger. "You understand?" "Then," she whispered, tracing a line along the glowing symbols on her shoulder. "You see what I hide. But do you understand why?" Elias shook his head slowly. He had guessed that the markings were important, but their purpose was still unclear. They were not just wounds or scars, they were patterns, a language perhaps, or a key. The more he stared, the more he felt they were alive, whispering a secret he could almost hear. "I don't understand yet," he admitted, "but I'll protect you. If you need me to." Her lips curved slightly, the faintest shadow of a smile. "Humans, so different. You survive through persistence, not power. I underestimated you." He ignored the compliment, focusing instead on the question burning in his mind. Why had she fallen? Her own people were stronger than humans, faster, more disciplined. No human force should have brought her down. Yet she had collapsed. There was something hidden, a secret even she feared to reveal. Elias helped her into the interior of the ruins, carefully placing her on a pile of rubble that served as a makeshift resting place. The walls were etched with ancient symbols, Valari history, forgotten in the galaxy for centuries. The Queen stirred slightly, tracing her fingers along one of the walls as if seeking reassurance in the familiar shapes. "The burden. It has been with me for decades," she said, her voice barely audible. Something in my own empire betrayed me. I thought I could control it. I thought I could hide it. Elias's brow furrowed. Betrayal. That was the first E. The ruins of the Volari outpost offered shelter, but they were far from safe. Elias Varen had spent hours scouting the perimeter, making sure no scouts or stray patrols had wandered near. The ash-strewn landscape outside was quiet now, but he knew silence could be deceiving. Every shadow could hide a threat. Every wind gust could carry news of the Queen's collapse. The Queen herself was seated against a wall of cracked stone, her glowing symbols pulsing faintly with life. Though she rested, Elias could tell she was still in pain. Her breathing was uneven, and her eyes flickered open and shut as if wrestling with invisible chains. He had asked her countless questions, but the answers were always partial, as if she trusted him just enough to hint at the truth, but not enough to reveal everything. Elias knelt beside her, running a gloved hand over the faint lines of her armor that had split during her fall. The markings beneath were more vivid now, glowing like threads of molten gold beneath her skin. "You're hiding something," he said softly. "I can feel it. It's not just this artifact, is it?" The Queen's eyes opened, staring directly into his. "You are perceptive, more than most humans I have met. Very well. You deserve the truth, or at least a part of it. But it is dangerous." Elias leaned in. Danger was not new to him. He had faced Volari warriors, collapsed buildings, and plasma fire. But something about the Queen's tone made his blood run cold. "There are traitors within my own court," she began, her voice low and measured. "They sought the artifact not for the glory of our people, but to gain power for themselves. They poisoned the council, they schemed in shadows, and when the time came, they struck at me." Elias's mind reeled. Betrayal from her own kind. The Volari were disciplined, hierarchical, proud. For one of their own to plot against the Queen was almost unthinkable, yet her words carried a weight that left no room for doubt. Why would they risk war to take it? Elias asked. If it's knowledge, why not use it quietly? The Queen's lips pressed into a thin line. Because some seek not understanding but control. They believe knowledge is power only when wielded by themselves. They cannot see its purpose beyond domination. Elias took a deep breath. Then we have to stop them. But first, we need to understand what they are after. The Queen's hand twitched. She gestured toward a partially collapsed wall, revealing a hidden alcove. Inside, dusty crates and containers had been stacked centuries ago. Among the relics, Elias could see fragments of Volari technology, tools, ancient data cores, and schematics that hummed faintly when touched. One of the crates seemed untouched by time. Its surface bore a symbol identical to the markings on her skin. This, the Queen whispered, is a piece of the puzzle. The artifact is not a weapon as many believe. It is a repository of knowledge from before our empire. It contains histories, discoveries, even truths about the creation of our galaxy. If it falls into the wrong hands... Her voice trailed off, but Elias understood. He knelt before the crate, careful not to disturb anything unnecessarily. The glowing markings on the Queen's arm pulsed in rhythm with the faint hum of the container. Elias realized they were connected like a lock and key. Whatever secrets lay inside, they were meant to be protected, and the Queen had carried that burden alone for decades. Then we need to move, he said. We can't stay here waiting for them to find us? The Queen nodded, though the motion was slow, as if each movement cost her strength. There are passages beneath these ruins. Secret corridors hidden by my ancestors long before the war. Only the loyal, those who truly serve the Volari, have ever known them. We can escape and perhaps find answers. Elias helped her to her feet, guiding her through the rubble-strewn hallway. The corridors beneath the outpost were narrow and winding, twisting like a labyrinth designed to confuse anyone who did not know the way. Ancient Volari glyphs lined the walls, casting faint light that reflected off the Queen's glowing symbols. It felt as though the walls themselves were alive, whispering secrets in a language Elias did not yet understand. As they moved deeper, Elias felt the presence of eyes, human or Volari, he could not tell. Every step was cautious. Every turn was calculated. It was clear someone was watching. Do you think they followed us? He asked in a low voice. The Queen's eyes narrowed. They are clever, but not clever enough. They will assume I am dead, that the artifact is lost, but they do not know you are with me. That gave Elias a momentary sense of relief. Yet relief was a dangerous thing in times like this. He pressed on, guided by instinct and the Queen's whispered directions. They reached a chamber deeper underground, larger than anything above. The air was cooler here, and the faint hum of machinery echoed through the stone. "This is one of the old halls," the Queen said, her voice tinged with awe. "It was built to preserve knowledge, to hide what was too dangerous to see. The artifact. It is not here, but its keys are. Without them, even the Valari cannot access it." Elias's eyes scanned the room. Strange devices lined the walls. Crystal conduits, metallic panels etched with alien symbols, and what appeared to be a central pedestal with slots for objects. The glowing markings on the Queen's body pulsed brighter as they approached the pedestal. "You see?" she said, lifting a hand. "You were chosen for this, human. You have a persistence, a way of seeing what others overlook. Only you could have survived long enough to reach this place." Elias felt a strange mixture of pride and fear. Chosen? He was just a guard, a soldier following orders, and yet here he was, standing at the threshold of a secret that could alter the balance of the galaxy. Before he could respond, a sudden vibration shook the floor. Dust fell from the ceiling. Elias grabbed the Queen, shielding her as a section of the corridor collapsed behind them. Someone had found the entrance, or perhaps a signal had been sent. "We have been discovered," the Queen said, her voice steady despite the tremor. "The traitors are near. If they reach this chamber, they will take the keys, and with them, they could control the artifact itself. We must move quickly." Elias led her toward another passage, narrower, darker, but seemingly safer. He could hear the faint clatter of machinery and the soft hum of Valari boots above, searching. Whoever they were, they would not leave until they had found the Queen, or what she guarded. As they moved, Elias realized something important. The Queen had been more than a ruler. She had been a protector. For centuries, she had carried a secret, hiding it from her own people even as traitors plotted around her. And now that burden had passed in part to him. They paused in a small chamber to rest, the faint light from her glowing symbols casting shadows on the walls. Elias looked at the Queen, studying her face. The arrogance, the pride, the power, all of it was still there, but now it was tempered by fear and responsibility. "You trusted me," he said softly. "Even though you didn't have to," she met his gaze. "I have seen what humans can do. Not just with strength, but with patience, with cleverness, with loyalty. You will need all of these. The traitors do not understand humanity. They think you are weak, simple, easy to manipulate. They are wrong." Elias felt a surge of determination. "Then we show them what we are capable of. We find the artifact, protect it, and stop them from using it for their own gain." The Queen nodded. "Yes, but beware. The enemy is not just outside. The real danger lies within. Valari betrayal is like a shadow in the mind. It is invisible until it strikes. Trust must be earned even here among my people. And now, you are part of this trust." Elias swallowed hard. Trust. He had fought entire battles on instinct with bullets and strategy. But trust in someone who could command entire worlds, that was a different kind of challenge. One that required courage, patience, and understanding. They spent the night in the chamber keeping watch in shifts. Every creak, every whisper of wind made Elias alert. The artifact's keys were close. The traitors were near. And the Queen? Well, she was no longer untouchable. No longer a figure of absolute power. She was human in ways he had never expected. Vulnerable, cautious, and yet determined. As dawn approached, casting pale light through cracks in the ruins above, Elias felt a strange sense of purpose. He had begun this war as a soldier, following orders, fighting battles he didn't fully understand. But now, he was part of something larger, a secret that could change the fate of empires, a mystery that had been buried for centuries, and a Queen who had chosen to trust him. And for the first time, Elias understood that the greatest battles were not always fought with weapons or fire. They were fought with knowledge, courage, and the will to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. The enemy was within, waiting in the shadows, and Elias Varen, human guard, was ready to face it. The corridors beneath the ruined Valari outpost stretched endlessly, twisting like a serpent into the bowels of the planet. Elias Varen led the way, careful to move quietly, the Queen close behind him. Dust fell from the ceiling with every step, and the faint hum of ancient machinery vibrated through the walls. This place was a labyrinth designed to confuse intruders. Every turn seemed identical. Every passage looked the same. Yet Elias pressed on, guided by instinct, patience, and the faint clues the Queen offered. "You humans, your persistence is remarkable," the Queen said quietly, her voice echoing off the stone walls. "When I was younger, I believed strength alone could overcome any obstacle. Now, I see there are other ways. Clevern." The staircase descended into a darkness that seemed to swallow sound. The glow from the keys on the pedestal above faded as Elias Varen led the Queen deeper into the underground chambers of the Valari outpost. The air grew cooler, heavier, filled with the scent of damp stone and the faint hum of long-forgotten machinery. Every step felt like a step further from safety, and yet closer to the answers that had eluded them for decades. "Do you feel it?" the Queen whispered, her voice echoing faintly off the walls. Her golden eyes flickered in the dim light, scanning every shadow. "The artifact. It senses those who come near, not by sight or sound, but by intent. It will reveal itself only to those worthy." Elias nodded, gripping his rifle more tightly. "Then we have to be careful. Whoever follows us won't have the same patience we do." The corridors widened into a vast chamber, its ceiling lost in darkness. In the center was a platform, etched with Valari symbols and glowing faintly as if reacting to their presence. Around it, intricate mechanisms seemed to hum with quiet life, waiting for the correct sequence of keys to activate. The Queen stepped forward, her glowing markings pulsing in rhythm with the pedestal above. "This is it," she said, "the final chamber before the artifact. Once we enter, there is no turning back. We must place the keys correctly or the secrets will remain hidden forever." Elias studied the platform carefully. He noticed subtle differences in the shapes of the slots, the faint grooves in the stone and the patterns of light reflecting off the walls. Where Valari relied on brute force or ancient tradition, he relied on reasoning, observation, and patience. "Let's do this together," he said. "We'll take it slow, step by step." The Queen nodded, and together they began placing the keys into the slots. One by one they fit perfectly, clicking into place with a soft hum. The room's glow intensified, illuminating more of the chamber, revealing walls covered in intricate carvings and symbols that told stories of Valari history and beyond. Then the hum shifted, a deeper vibration that reverberated through the floor. Elias froze. Shadows moved along the walls, faint figures emerging from the corridors behind them. "The traitors had found them. Stay calm," the Queen whispered. "They seek the artifact, not us. If we finish the sequence, it will be theirs to seek no longer." Elias's heart raced. He could hear footsteps, whispers in the alien tongue, and the low hum of Valari weapons being readied. Yet he focused, placing the final key in its slot. The platform glowed brilliantly, and a section of the floor slid open, revealing a hidden chamber below. Inside lay the artifact, a crystalline structure suspended in a field of soft, pulsating light. It was unlike anything Elias had ever seen, an object that seemed alive, shimmering with knowledge, its surface shifting to display symbols, star maps, and images of civilizations long vanished. The Queen stepped forward, awe and fear mingling in her expression. "It is incredible," she whispered. "Not a weapon, as many believe, but knowledge, truth about the galaxy, its creation, and the first civilizations. It is beyond anything we imagined." Elias approached, studying the artifact. As he did, the carvings on the walls seemed to shift, forming a pattern that connected the Queen's markings with the artifact itself. He realized that the glowing symbols on her skin were not just decorative. They were a map, a key, a guide that connected her to the artifact. Then, as they marveled at the discovery, the traitors arrived. Valari soldiers, armed and hostile, filled the chamber. Their leader stepped forward, eyes glowing with greed and ambition. "Step away from the artifact, Queen," he said. "It belongs to the Valari Empire. Hand it over or be destroyed." The Queen stood tall despite her exhaustion. "It belongs to no one," she said firmly. "Not to the traitors. Not to those who seek only power. Its secrets are too dangerous to be controlled by one hand." Elias felt a surge of determination. He had protected the Queen through storms, puzzles, and traps. He would not let these traitors claim the artifact. He raised his rifle, signaling the Queen to stay behind. But then something unexpected happened. The artifact pulsed, casting light that illuminated the entire chamber. Symbols shifted, revealing something even more astonishing. Humans, images of Earth, colonies across distant worlds, ancient figures who bore human features interacting with Valari in harmony and cooperation. The records, the Queen whispered, awe in her voice. Humans were part of this galaxy long before we knew. The artifact confirms it. Your people, your kind, were here first. Elias's breath caught. Humans, his species, were not merely latecomers to the galaxy. They had been woven into its story, seeded across worlds, influencing civilizations long before the current Valari Empire existed. The traders hesitated, unaware of what they were seeing. Their greed had blinded them. They were focused only on power, not truth. Elias realized the significance immediately. This changes everything, he said softly. If they see this, it could prevent war, or ignite it further. The Queen stepped closer to him. It is knowledge for those who are worthy, she said. Not for the greedy, not for the violent. You understand what must be done. Elias nodded. He raised the rifle not in attack, but as a signal to hold the chamber. We protect it, he said. We reveal it only when the right moment comes. Not now, not to them. The traders advanced, weapons raised, but the Queen's presence seemed to create a subtle barrier. Her markings glowed brighter, and the artifact's light enveloped the chamber. The soldiers froze as if the very knowledge they sought had judged them unworthy. You are not ready, Elias said firmly, stepping forward. You cannot have this. A tense silence filled the chamber. Then, one by one, the Valari traders retreated, unable to reach the artifact without facing its judgment. Their greed and ambition made them weak in ways that patience and wisdom could overcome. The Queen exhaled, relief washing over her face. They underestimate you, human. You protect what should not be taken lightly. Elias felt a strange sense of accomplishment. They had survived betrayals, solved puzzles, and now held the greatest secret in the galaxy. Yet he knew their journey was not over. Knowledge was powerful, but it was also dangerous. How it would be used and by whom would determine the fate of entire civilizations. He turned to the Queen. What now? He asked. She looked at the artifact, then at him, eyes filled with understanding. Now, we decide who will know the truth. We ensure it is not misused, and we prepare for those who will come, believing they can claim it by force. Elias nodded, determination settling into his bones. Humanity had been underestimated for too long. Here in the shadows of an alien empire, a human guard had proven the value of patience, cleverness, and courage. He would not fail, not now, not ever. As the first rays of light from the surface filtered down through cracks in the stone above, Elias realized something extraordinary. The artifact was more than a source of knowledge. It was proof. Proof that humans were capable of surviving, of protecting, and of understanding truths far beyond the reach of any empire. And in that realization, Elias felt something he had never felt before: hope. The battle was far from over. The artifact was secure, but enemies still lurked, ambition still burned, and the galaxy itself still held dangers beyond comprehension. Yet Elias and the Queen had survived betrayal, uncovered secrets, and proved that humanity, small, underestimated, and often ignored, was a force capable of shaping the future of the stars. And for the first time, the Queen looked upon humanity not with suspicion or fear, but with respect. Elias Varen, a simple human guard, had uncovered truths that would change the galaxy. He had survived the enemy within, solved impossible puzzles, and protected knowledge too dangerous to fall into the wrong hands. And in doing so, he had proven that courage, ingenuity, and loyalty could overcome betrayal, ambition, and centuries of prejudice. The artifact pulsed softly, bathing the chamber in a gentle glow. Elias watched it, aware of its power but also of its promise. This was only the beginning, and humanity, he realized, had finally begun to take its rightful place among the stars. The chamber beneath the ruined Valari outpost hummed with the soft glow of the artifact. Elias Varen stood beside the Queen, his hand resting lightly on her arm as they surveyed the crystalline structure. The light reflected in their eyes, revealing awe, exhaustion, and the weight of responsibility. Every challenge they had faced, battles, betrayals, traps, and puzzles, had led to this moment. Elias, the Queen said, her voice steady, the artifact will reveal itself fully only to those who are ready to bear its truth. What you choose here will shape the galaxy, not just for us, but for generations to come. Elias nodded, swallowing hard. He had fought wars before, faced alien armies, and solved puzzles that could kill him if he made a mistake. But this was different. This choice was not about survival. It was about responsibility, about knowing what to do when the stakes were higher than he could imagine. A low rumble shook the chamber. Shadows flickered along the walls. The traitors had returned, more organized, more determined. They knew the artifact was within reach, and they would not leave without it. Elias could feel the tension building in the air like static before a storm. They have no idea. He muttered under his breath. They don't see what we've learned. They don't understand what it means. The Queen placed a hand on his shoulder. That is why you are here. You have the clarity,